Oscar Sunday, new Filmgazm podcast presented by Connor Eyzaguirre and Austin Johnson. We are going to be doing a new segment on each Sunday talking about Oscar-nominated films, Oscar-related films, films that maybe were snubbed by the Oscars. You'll be surprised how many films have been touched by the Oscars, how many films have been nominated. And today we're going to start with a classic, a film that we both feel deserves all the Oscar attention it got. We feel if the Oscars happened today, it would still get that sort of attention. It is Quentin Tarantino's second effort from 1994, Pulp Fiction. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And welcome to Oscar Sunday. All right, man. Pulp Fiction is, just a monumental film for Filmgazm. We've talked about it. Our first Weird Shit Wednesday was on the Tarantino filmography, if you will, and obviously Pulp Fiction stands out. It is my favorite Quentin Tarantino film, along with Jackie Brown. I always go back and forth between those two, but with the cultural impact that Pulp Fiction has, I just see it as this complete titan of the 90s, complete titan of cinema, American cinema. What are your initial thoughts when you hear Pulp Fiction?
When I hear Pulp Fiction, I immediately think of cinematic greatness. I think Pulp Fiction is unrivaled in what it was able to do. It's a film that is so experimental that I think in anybody else's hands it wouldn't have worked. But Tarantino knows character and structure so well that he has a complete vision every time he makes a film. And Pulp Fiction showed the world that this guy's here to stay. I mean, Reservoir Dogs got him on the map, but Pulp Fiction was his first masterpiece. And it's a film I could watch over and over again. It never gets old for me. I think it's very much deserving of all the praise it got.
Yeah, speaking of that praise, we can go down the list of the Oscar nominations that Pulp Fiction got, which if you don't know, IMDb categorize these things very easy for you to look. If you just select a film, you just scroll down just a little bit and it shows awards and nominations. And you can very easily find these things out and study these things if you care like Connor and I do. I think it. Do you do that in your own free time? Because I find myself all the time kind of memorizing what actually got nominated for films and whatnot.
Constantly. It's a hobby of mine for sure. I do, I go through the Oscars, I go through the Globes. I'll go through like the Bram Stoker Awards. Like I'll just look at whatever the hell a film has been recognized for, regardless of ranking.
Why not? Yeah. So and for Pulp Fiction, this would be the 67th Academy Awards that were hosted by David Letterman, and he famously did not do a good job. And I actually watched his opening monologue. It was just not very good, not very well crafted. The show did very well. We got 48 million viewers in the U.S. That's insane compared to today.
I've always kind of thought that Letterman is an acquired taste anyway.
Yeah, me too. I've never been in that camp. Yeah.
Me neither. Not really. Weird, but I get, it makes sense having a late night talk show host do the Oscars.
He's someone who's comfortable, speaking and has no problem with their own ego. Yeah. Is able to just go up there. I prefer this is controversial probably for some people, but I prefer Ricky Gervais, who is going to kind of call it like it is and throw things out there. If it's going to lean one way, I'd rather it lean more uncomfortable than too safe,
They're never going to let him within 100 feet of the Oscars.
Hell no. Too gritty.
Man,
So David Letterman sets the stage here for the Oscars. This would be in 1995, in February of 95. And Pulp Fiction was nominated for Best Film Editing. That would be due to Sally Menke's work. Best Director, Quentin Tarantino. Best Actress in a Supporting Role. That would be Uma Thurman's great work. Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Samuel L. Jackson. Unbelievable. Best Actor in a Leading Role, John Travolta. Best Picture, thank you to Quentin Tarantino and Lawrence Bender. And then, of course, the win for Best Writing Screenplay written directly for the screen, Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary. So, like you said, for this one, it just didn't take long for people to recognize its greatness. Yeah. As far as it made good money. It was the amount of merchandise that people still buy, T-shirts and posters, and then it also got all these nominations. And that's partly why we're starting with this movie, because we have we love this movie, and it has like Oscar glory, for Quentin Tarantino's second effort as a writer director at a feature length film. It's unbelievable what he's able to do. What of those do you think should have maybe won? Like, is there one that stands out to you of those that got nominated?
Well, I think honestly film editing. I think that's the one that should have won for the nomination. Sally Menke did all of Tarantino's films up to Inglourious Bastards before her death in 2010 of heat stroke, of all things. And she did such a great job just focusing Tarantino's love of the camera. Like, he filmed everything. In all of his films, he had so much that always ended up on the cutting room floor. And she did such a great job just making all of that work. And especially for a film like Pulp Fiction that is all about editing. She should have taken that.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it all day. I think Pulp Fiction, specifically, one of my favorite. There's a lot of favorite bits, and we'll get to that as we talk about the plot later on.
Yeah.
Our favorite scenes and whatnot. But there's one of my favorite cuts is when Zed's dead, baby, and they roll off on the motorcycle, and you have like a hard cut, but it's so necessary. It's a hard black screen transition. And it's like that's ballsy, but it's so necessary right there to just move on from what's happening, because Tarantino, I mean, I think you and I would love for things to linger forever because we love his work and we love his dialogue. But for the movie to craft into what it is, the nice 2 hour and 30 minutes that Pulp Fiction is, you need Sally's work. And I agree with you, man. Obviously there's some great films that we're going to talk about shortly that came out in 94 as well. But I agree with you. I think one of the best parts of Pulp Fiction is how precisely it's cut and edited. Incredible stuff. I also think that Samuel L. Jackson, just what he does, and he's on screen a lot for a supporting. There's a lot of supporting roles over the history of the Oscars where they're on the screen for such a short time. We can point out Mahershala Ali, who's in Moonlight and just doesn't have that much script to work with. And sometimes that's hard to weigh against a performance like Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, where he's so valuable and so prevalent to the script. Don't get me wrong, I love Mahershala Ali's effort in Moonlight, but it's hard to compare to something like this. And I've always looked at the character of Jules Winfield as kind of the staple of Pulp Fiction, him and Vincent Vega, and it's just unbelievable performance from Samuel L. And again, as we get into the plot, we'll talk a lot about his his insane stuff. But let's get to some films that also came out that year and were nominated.
Before that, I'd like to take it. I'd like to take us through the nominations and talk about the films that.
Okay, yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
We'll start with film editing, work our way up. So the film that Sally Menke was up against for film editing.
And again, all these movies would have come out in 1994. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Speed, The Shawshank Redemption, Hoop Dreams, and the winner, Forrest Gump. No,
I've seen all of those. I like all of those.
I haven't seen Hoop Dreams, but I've seen the other four. I think that Sally Menke,
I stand by
Pulp Fiction, wins in that group.
And then I would say John Wright second for Speed.
Yeah,
Speed is an incredible action movie. Yeah. And is really built upon editing and all the technical stuff, because the acting is good, but it's not, they're more poppy performances than really solid.
I agree. Forrest Gump was the favorite of the 94 Oscars. And compared to some of the other films, I don't think it holds up as well as people think. I don't think it should have gotten half the awards it did get. It's a good movie, but it's up against some great movies. And that's kind of damaging, I think, in the long run, of films that have now become revered, like The Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction. I think Forrest Gump didn't it doesn't live up. And I don't know. I just wish that things had gone differently at that award show.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know me. I don't think it comes even close to Pulp and Shawshank. Not even close. As far as when you look down the line, 20 years later, in this case, 25 years later, 26 years later, it's just not even close. Like the impact that they have and how the longevity of fans latching onto them, new fans latching onto it. There's more and more young people who are just kind of like, Forrest Gump, really? Like, what's up with that? And I think that's going to happen in the future with Green Book, with Vice, Roma, The Favorite. Like, come on, man, those are really unique, good movies. And Green Book just plays that shit safe, kind of like Forrest Gump does. And you leave like, that's a good movie, good. But when it gets all of this praise, it kind of throws a little niche into it.
Well, and the Oscars have always been kind of, they play it safe for long periods of time before occasionally like going against the grain. And it doesn't happen often. And once it does happen, it's kind of forgotten the next year.
Yeah.
They're always trying to kind of stay with the times, but they're pretty tone deaf most of the time. It's kind of weird. Best director. So
here we
Tarantino,
go. This is a cool group. Really cool group.
For a pretty new filmmaker, he was up against some titans.
Yeah, no kidding.
Krzysztof Kieslowski for Three Colors Red, Robert Redford for Quiz Show, Woody Allen for Bullets Over Broadway, and the winner was Robert Zemeckis for Forrest Gump.
Again,
that's just nuts.
How on earth is Frank Darabont not in that fucking group?
I don't know, man. It's fucking criminal.
All right. So first off, Krzysztof Kieslowski, I've not seen that trilogy. I want to really bad. He Camera Buff is one of the coolest movies I've seen recently. I would love to watch more of his movies. I can't say anything about that one. Robert Redford, Quiz Show. I really like that movie. That's the first review I ever wrote for Filmgazm was for Quiz Show. Yeah. I like that movie. I respect it. Don't know if he deserves it. Quentin Tarantino. I mean, come on. Yeah. Unbelievable effort. Woody Allen, Bolts Over Broadway. That's a decent movie. I've only seen it once, but Darabont outshines all of them. All of them.
Yeah, he does.
Shawshank is built on direction, and I think that is the award that it should have gotten. Shawshank. I don't even know what else I would give to it. I do think Morgan Freeman should have won, but I don't know, man. That one blows my mind.
Well, you know me. I am a huge Zemeckis fan. He has done some of my favorite films of all time. The Back to the Future trilogy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Death Becomes Her. The guy basically like produced my childhood. Yeah. But best director for Forrest Gump, I don't give it to him. No. I think you're right. It should have been Darabont. 100%. It should have been Darabont.
I don't know, man. Yeah. We've talked about Shawshank. We had a really, really fun bonus episode on that one too.
For those of you who don't know, this is a companion podcast to our Filmgazm podcast we've been doing for about a year. We are 100 odd episodes into that one. We've covered a lot of different genre films, and we wanted to do a show that was more awards focused, more traditional film focused. It's something where we can kind of be a little snobby.
Yeah, same passion, just different lens. Yeah.
I mean, you heard the theme music. This is going to be snobby.
Hello.
And, why not? Why the fuck not?
And it's fun because you and I we enjoy all things film. Yes. We don't see the Oscars as the end all be all, like this is what decides things, but it's fun to watch because it's honoring movies, and we love movies. So when you have a group of 5 directors and you don't have Frank Darabont for Shawshank Redemption, it's fun to be upset about it. You know what I mean?
I mean, we were able to do both of these shows because we can have a double feature of Casablanca and Saw 6. And just be totally cool with that.
That sounds like a great Tuesday night.
Here's looking at you, kid. But we just wanted to kind of stretch our critical lens a bit. And
Yeah, open the door to new movies, and if horror's not your thing, you can steer your way over here. We're gonna do all kinds of different movies. We'll be telling you at the end of each episode, the movie we're doing next week.
Yes.
We'll give you that'll all be easy. But what I do have is another fun little group here. Best Supporting Actress.
Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, so you have, obviously Uma Thurman was nominated. Then Jennifer Tilly for Bullets Over Broadway. Helen Mirren for The Madness of King George. Rosemary Harris for Tom and Viv. And then you got Diane Waste that won for Bullets Over Broadway. So you got two women up for supporting actress roles for Bullets Over Broadway, directed by Woody Allen. I don't have an opinion on any of those except for Uma Thurman.
I haven't seen any of those films. Yeah.
I've seen Bullets Over Broadway once, but I can't really tell you, Uma should have won. I do think Uma is amazing. She's incredible. Another one of my favorite bits is, I think might be your favorite scene is when she gets the adrenaline shot, and it's everything she's doing right there. You believe every single move she makes.
Yeah.
All the way up to her telling that joke, finally telling the joke, and Vincent Vega, just kind of like every move she makes is believable, and that's the sign of a good supporting role,
For sure. I wish I'd seen those films so I could have something to kind of compare. But that's not always going to happen.
Yeah, that's the part of the point of this too, is to stretch ourselves and watch. I think you watched Four Weddings and a Funeral and prepped for this.
I did. Yes, it was the one Best Picture nom of this group that I had not seen, so I wanted to get that out of the way for this show. And I'm glad I did. It was a great movie. Yeah,
and we're going to be talking about that one shortly. But we also have another fun group here. Best Supporting Actor.
Ooh.
Yeah, you got Samuel L. Jackson, who was good old Jules Winfield. We also have Gary Sinise for Forrest Gump. Paul Scofield for Quiz Show. Awesome performance. Chaz Palminteri for Bullets Over Broadway. And the winner was Martin Landau for Ed Wood. What say you about this group?
I think the man who deserved to win this did win it, Martin Landau for Ed Wood.
Hell yeah.
That is an unbelievable performance as Bela Lugosi. Absolutely. I support that one.
This happens all the time where you're like, oh, man, I have a few guys I love, but it's okay. I would have been fine with three guys winning this. I think Schofield, I think Samuel Jackson's great, but Martin Landau, just absolute titan of the game. He's a legend.
Consistently throughout Oscar history, Best Supporting Actor has always been the most competitive category. It's the place where character actors shine. And I don't think it should have been Paul Scofield for Quiz Show. I think it absolutely should have been John Turturro.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine with me too. Yeah, hell yeah.
His role as Herb Stempel in that is so good. And Paul Scofield kind of is. He's not really that essential to the story. I don't really know why he was nominated. Of all the incredible performances in that film, it's not the one I would have picked.
It's another one of those like heat check. This guy's been around for a long time. Let's feed him one of these. That happens a lot throughout Oscar history. Kind of like, here you go. Like, we'll give you one.
Yeah, but he already won in the 60s for A Man for All Seasons. So like he had his.
They do this, man. They do that. They're weird. We're always as we watch more and more of these films, we're gonna find out more and more of these odd, like, oh man, the Oscars have always just been so off the wall with how they vote on things. It's incredible.
But at the end of the day, they are the most prestigious film award that you can get, and that's why we talk about them.
Like in the world, yeah. It's pretty incredible. It is amazing that it happens, right in fucking Los Angeles, California. It's amazing.
Yep.
Here's a Titan group right here. For Best Actor, Oof. John Travolta for Vincent Vega, who we both adore. Paul Newman in Nobody's Fool. Nigel Hawthorne, The Madness of King George. Morgan Freeman for The Shawshank Redemption, and the winner is Tom Hanks for Forrest Gump, who had just won for Philadelphia.
Yes. One of the rare instances where an actor took it back to back.
Yeah, back to back, incredible stuff. But Tom Hanks, he still is, but he more so in the 90s, just the king.
Yes, big time. And this was John Travolta's comeback role. He had kind of fizzled out in the 70s. He was nominated for Saturday Night Fever. He had Grease. He was a big star in the 70s. And then in the 80s, he kind of started falling behind a bit. And Pulp Fiction was a chance for John to go back on top. And Tarantino has done that a lot for a lot of actors. He gave Robert Forster another chance in Jackie Brown, Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards. He's known for giving character actors a really good, meaty role to shine in.
Yes.
And Travolta fucking killed it in Pulp Fiction. He is so good. But I do think Tom Hanks was better in Forrest Gump. That's the award. That's the one award tough. I would have given Forrest Gump as best actor for Tom Hanks.
I'll be contrarian and say that I think Tim Robbins, who was not even there, should have beat everybody for Andy Dufresne. As time has gone on, that performance is like, it makes me fucking weep. Like it's incredible what he does. But I do think Tom Hanks is incredible in Forrest Gump. It's incredible range, obviously. Very long movie where he's doing all kinds of stuff, and it's a monumental character. So yeah, I definitely get that one. And if it's going to get one, that should be the one. Now, before we get to Best Picture, I want to go to the one that Pulp Fiction won. And what Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery won, which was Best Screenplay written directly for the screen.
Now known as Best Original Screenplay.
Yes, exactly. And this would be, the nominations for that would be Red, which is the third movie in the Colors trilogy. Heavenly Creatures, that's Peter Jackson and Francis Walsh. Four Weddings and a Funeral, Richard Curtis, legend. Bullets Over Broadway, Woody Allen and Douglas McGrath. And then, of course, Pulp Fiction won. I have no qualms with this.
No, it won this for a reason. It deserved it. The screenplay shines in Pulp Fiction.
It really, everybody quotes it. There's people who kind of wear T-shirts of this. They don't even know much of the movie. It's like one of those things that's just like, it's like wearing a Nirvana shirt. It's like Pulp Fiction is that big. It has this crazy pull on culture. And it's because of the say what again. It's all of that stuff that people just love to quote over and over. Similar to The Big Lebowski, where it's just like, man, it's just fun to quote this movie. Yeah. Because there's just genius lines. I do want to point out, I don't know if you've seen the acceptance speech that Quentin Tarantino gives for this award is pretty ridiculous. He goes up on the stage, him and Roger, and they both, look real jolty, and they're all over the place, and just Quentin's like, I figure this is going to be the only one I'm going to win, so I guess I should say everything at once. And then he ends up just saying, but I'm out. And then he kind of just turns, and Roger takes the mic, and he's like, I love my wife, like, thank you for everything you do. Thank you, everybody. And they both leave the stage, and that was it. And that was all Pulp Fiction got. He was right. But it certainly didn't lose in the eyes of cinematic history. This movie, there's a reason we're doing it for the first episode.
Well, and this is one of the rare instance where Tarantino had a writing partner. Mm-hmm. Roger Avery is credited with the stories, but Tarantino wrote the screenplay pretty much alone. Yeah. Roger Avery's career as a screenwriter was okay. He wrote the Silent Hill movie. He wrote the Beowulf movie. But that's kind of it. Like everything else really doesn't. I've never heard of it. This was kind of his 15 minutes was Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Which is cool. I mean, I would, if I even had a hand in writing like one line, I would brag about that for the rest of my life.
Forever. Yeah. Well, yeah. If I was an extra for 5 seconds, I'd be like, I'm in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. There's my hand. You see my hand? And that takes us to Best Picture.
Here we go. Yeah.
Official, like the most definitive award you can get at the Oscars. And this was a very divisive group. We've got The Shawshank Redemption, Quiz Show, Pulp Fiction, Four Weddings and a Funeral, and the winner, Forrest Gump. And I don't think I'm alone in saying the winner of this award should have been The Shawshank Redemption.
Agreed. Pulp Fiction, as much as we can talk about it all day, and this and that, there are a couple things that we might get to later on that you can point to where it's like, that is for a certain crowd. There's a certain crowd of moviegoers that's not going to necessarily like certain scenes, and not just because of like violent content, just because of like morality. And we'll speak on that. Mainly talking about Quentin Tarantino's role in Pulp Fiction is just unnecessary, and I think a lot of people look at that as kind of like what was the point of that? Why would you put that in the final cut? And Shawshank does not have that.
No, that film is flawless.
Yeah. Shawshank has Best Picture written all over it. We'll talk about that all the time. Which one do I like better? Pulp Fiction. But I totally understand that Shawshank is probably the better overall movie.
Yeah. Forrest Gump is good. It's not great. We've talked about that. Quiz Show, also good, but not great. Four Weddings and a Funeral, good, but nowhere near the rest of these films.
Yeah,
it should not have been up for Best Picture. It's cute, but it is not. It's a rom-com, pretty traditional. Does not really deserve to be there.
No, not at all. I mean, yeah. If that's there, then it's like, well, where's Clerks? You know, that kind of thing. Like, what's the deal?
If Four Weddings wasn't there, are there any other films off the top of your head that you think should have been there?
Speed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's very hypothetical and far-fetched because it's rare for a like through and through action film to be up for Best Picture. Yeah. But if Four Weddings and a Funeral is there, then Speed can be there. What about you? What from '94 pops out to you?
Hands down, The Lion King.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Please go. Yeah, explain because I'm not as big of a fan, but I love hearing because I've heard people say that like it belongs in this group. It should be the fifth one.
In 1992, the Oscars made history by awarding Beauty and the Beast the first ever nomination for Best Picture for an animated film. So there was precedent. And in 94, Disney released what I think is their masterpiece, The Lion King, a film about morality, about, in a weird way, humanity. I know it's lions, but there's a spark of humanity in this, and about accepting your destiny, in a film that makes me sob every time I watch it. And I think it should have gotten some serious attention. But, it didn't. It won Best Song, so, thank you, Elton John. But it should have been up for Best Picture, I think.
Elton John, absolute titan at that time. Wasn't that movie up for like 3 songs or something?
Yeah, 3 songs. It won for Can You Feel the Love Tonight, but Circle of Life and Hakuna Matata were also up.
Yeah, you're right. And can you name the other 2 songs that were nominated?
Make Up Your Mind from The Paper and Look What Love Has Done from Junior.
There you go.
My God.
Randy Newman.
And then I think The Lion King also won Best Score. Yeah, Hans Zimmer won Best Score for The Lion King that year.
I like that. That's an interesting group. You got Little Women, Shawshank, Interview with a Vampire. And Forrest Gump, and then Lion King won. Yeah, it's fascinating to just look at. Just pick any year. Pick a number. 55th Academy Awards. Just look it up. And just scroll through because it's just a lot of fun to see. It's fun to see these actors in a group together, like the Best Supporting Actor groups or the Best Actress groups. Like for instance, right here. Listen to these 5 women. Jessica Lange won for Blue Sky, Jodie Foster, Miranda Richardson, Winona Ryder, and Susan Sarandon. Awesome.
Yes, indeed. Another, I haven't seen any of those films. All 5 of those I've never seen. So I can't judge it.
Dude, The Client. Oh, dude. Yeah, we'll get to that one. And I've seen that Little Women. I like the newer one quite a bit better. But The Client is, we'll have to touch on that one at some point in the future.
Oh, yeah.
This is quite an impactful year. Now, is there, real quick, I think we have a couple each, maybe. Is there a 94 film that you're just like, it's not Oscar worthy, but it's just kind of like one of your movies?
Clerks.
So good. Good.
Hands down. That movie's hilarious. And I would have given Kevin Smith a nod for screenplay for that.
I agree. Yeah.
I would also say The Mask. That's a big favorite of mine.
All right, well, yeah, I'll bounce off The Mask, and one of my favorite '94 films would be Dumb and Dumber. it's one of the movies that makes me laugh like every like 3 minutes, you know. And there's not a lot of comedies that do that these days. We landed on the moon. Yeah, it's a legendary movie. I also think that actually that movie was directed by what's his name, the guy who did Green Book. What's his name?
Peter Farrelly.
Yeah, Farrelly. The Farrelly brothers did Dumb and Dumber, and they
Yeah.
also did something about Mary. Yeah, that's why Green Book is kind of cheesy, I think, because it's just got that like, oh, we're on the road. Hey.
Yeah. It says it's like, I don't know, but just if he feels like the wrong guy to tell that story.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Great performances from those two guys. We'll definitely do Green Book in the future.
Oh, that's going to be a very fun episode. You are going to rip that movie a new one.
Yeah. I got to rewatch it though. I just saw it in theaters.
Yeah, 1994 was a great year. There were a few duds. Some of the films that I think were just kind of bad from 94. I am not a fan of Natural Born Killers.
I wrote that one down. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I do not like that movie. Yeah.
That film looks like a student art film made by a kid with psychological problems. It just does not click, and I cannot believe it comes out of Tarantino's mind. Oliver Stone just rewrote Tarantino's entire treatment, turned it into something ugly, and he disowned it, Tarantino. And yeah, that doesn't click. I do not like that movie at all.
So weird.
It's gross. Like Rodney Dangerfield as like a incestual stepdad. I mean, Jesus Christ. Who's that for? God.
Oh man.
Another one is John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, which had such a cool idea, but the execution was poor. And I feel like Carpenter's deal with the devil kind of died out in the mid 80s. Because everything after that was pretty bad. And In the Mouth of Madness is just like Sam Neill plays a private investigator who is sent to this small town to find an author, a horror writer whose work is coming to life and like killing people apparently, and it leads him to this like Lovecraftian conspiracy to end the modern world. It's very weird. But some of Carpenter's best music, he never faltered with that.
Oh yeah, no. And I've been loving those videos that you sent me of Carpenter like playing his songs. Yeah, we love Carpenter here at Filmgazm.
Yes, indeed. Well, are there any awards that you think Pulp Fiction should have been up for that it did not, that it was completely ignored for?
Cinematography.
Okay.
Which would be I cannot remember that gentleman's name, but he didn't work with Tarantino a lot. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head.
Andres Sekula.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. That's him. He's done some very strange films. Some films I don't even like. I looked on his IMDb. But I find Pulp Fiction, again, in the film editing circle and the cinematography and just the way Quentin Tarantino makes L.A. look like this just dreamland. David Lynch is very good at that too. I think it's something that guys that are like that, are kind of like bred in LA are just good at. Paul Thomas Anderson's really good at it. In Boogie Nights, he just makes, a certain area of California almost seem fantasy, and I think Tarantino and what's his name? How do you say his name?
Andres Sekula. I think he's Polish.
Sekula. Yeah, Polish must be right. I just think what they're doing with this movie, with Pulp Fiction, is astounding. Just from some of the shots in the car with when you're with Vega and Jules, and you're seeing these just very, very normal things go by, but they're placed so perfectly, and he does so many focus shots where the things in the background are out of focus, so you don't quite see what's on the building because he's not, product placement's not Tarantino's thing. All these little things that happen in these movies, I think he should have been nominated. Maybe not won, but nominated for sure.
Yeah, good call. I think Ving Rhames should have been up for Best Supporting Actor.
Great call. That's a great call.
Yeah, I think Marcellus Wallace is a scary son of a bitch, and I love him. And
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yeah, he really kills it. He gives it his all in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite role of his entire career. This and Die Hard. I'm not a huge Bruce Willis fan, but he's just oh man, his face, the entire scene, the Gimp scene, his face is hilarious because he's like, first off, he's just utterly confused, like what the fuck is going on, and then when he's about to leave and he comes back, he's just like, and with the sword, and then looks at the chainsaw, yeah, all that is what he does in that scene is incredible.
It's wild. It's really wild.
And same with Ving Rhames. Once Marcellus Wallace comes back and he, pumps the shotgun and is like, I'm gonna get medieval on your ass. Like that is an incredible scene from Ving Rhames.
Yeah, for sure. He really sells this mixture of just, anger, fear, embarrassment of what just happened, and just pure seething hatred and revenge. He is going to rip this son of a bitch apart, and you believe it. You believe it.
Incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. So Pulp Fiction has an IMDb score of 8.9. Pretty amazing.
Oof. Yeah, incredible.
Rotten Tomatoes score of 91%. The critics' consensus says it is one of the most influential films of the 1990s. Pulp Fiction is a delirious, postmodern mix of neo-noir thrills, pitch-black humor, and pop culture touchstones. Yep. And it grossed a remarkable $214 million on a budget of $8 million. And you said it was one of the highest grossing films in 94. Right, or of the Oscars nominated.
It was second of those Best Picture. Yeah, over 100 million, and it everything else was low. Yeah, I mean Shawshank barely made any money in the theater. And Pulp Fiction, that IMDb score for people who use that app a lot, Pulp Fiction is ranked as the eighth greatest movie of all time on IMDb.
Oh,
shit! You know what's number one?
What?
Shawshank fucking Redemption.
Fuck yes. Absolutely.
Sitting at a cool 9.2.
My word.
Oh, man.
Clash of the Titans, man. 94.
Incredible.
Beautiful. We did the Shawshank Redemption as a bonus episode on the Filmgazm podcast, but eventually we'll probably redo it over here for you snobs.
Yeah, all the snobs out there, the Oscar folks out there. There's not a lot left.
There are not. We're a dying breed.
But I think there's a lot of people who, without realizing it, if you see that shit on the poster or the DVD case, it clicks. Something clicks in you, like, oh, Oscar or Best Picture win. I might check that out now. I think that there's proof. I think with something like Moonlight, which had a second stint and made almost as much money as it did in its first stint after the Oscars because it won. And people were like, oh, that must be good. I'm going to go check it out, sort of thing.
Same thing happened with Parasite. I mean, that movie had a huge surge.
Exactly. It's just about to bring that one up. I think that movie went from profiting to like, holy shit, we made a lot of money because of the Oscars. So whether you like the Oscars or not, they do have a significant pull on foreign films, on independent films, on dramatic films. I know they don't touch on horror a lot, but they do here and there. And you bet your ass we'll be talking about those in the future.
And like you said, they influence moviegoers. I mean, forever, even no matter how shitty the films he does, John Travolta will always be known as Academy Award nominee John Travolta.
Exactly.
Because of Saturday Night Fever and Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And you're going to see that in a preview of some movie he's going to do, and it's going to make you think, maybe this is worth checking out. Yeah,
well, they're selling that part of like, look who we have in our cast, this Oscar-worthy person. You even see it with you go down to TV, Emmy nominated, this sort of thing. It's always going to influence people a little bit, even if it's not a lot. It doesn't necessarily influence me because I'm already, and I don't think it does you either. We're both already kind of there. Like, we don't need to be reminded that we don't like it. Like, if it says that, like, oh, Forrest Gump Oscar winner, like, we don't need to necessarily be reminded about that. But it's just a lot of fun to look back and kind of try to memorize. I know you and I have always tried to memorize the Best Picture winners and try to watch all of the ones that have been nominated. Look out for specific roles that have been nominated or won. That's just something we'll always do, because you kind of want to be like, were they right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to check them, and it really felt good this past year with Parasite winning, because it was like, oh, that kind of feels right. Like, cool, all right, that was a really good movie.
Yes, it was. Another one I'd like to bring over from the Filmgazm podcast and do in this new light. There's a few films.
Yeah, I think we'll, Silence of the Lambs is a big one. Rosemary's Baby, we'll definitely carry over films that we've talked about in Filmgazm and kind of connect them with it, like you said, with a new lens, a little bit more snobby.
Yeah, a little bit more of a critical eye.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Filmgazm is, for us as film fans, and Oscar Sunday is for us to, just be Hollywood's bitch for a bit.
Yeah, and dig deeper, and that's what we're going to do with Pulp Fiction right now. So Let's do this.
Pulp Fiction. Oh, so already we have an incredible cast. We've talked about the nominees: John Travolta, Sam Jackson, Uma Thurman. But on top of that, we've got Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Amanda Plummer, Ving Rhames, Eric Stoltz, Rosanna Arquette, Christopher Walken, and Bruce Willis. And it's just, good Lord. I mean, he's a second-time director at this point, and he was able to assemble a cast like that. That is remarkable.
Yeah, I adore you have the Reservoir Dogs guys that carry over, Keitel and Tim Roth, and even Steve Buscemi, who pops up at Jack Rabbit Slims. It's just that kind of camaraderie that has continued throughout his career, of people respecting his work and being like, let's just do it, man. It's gonna be fun. Like, it seems like it's just a blast to be on set with all these characters.
Yeah, for sure. And he doesn't waste any of them. Tarantino gives everybody a moment to shine.
Yes.
And let's get into that. So we open in a diner in LA with this young couple, Amanda Plummer and Tim Roth, Honey Bunny and Pumpkin, as they are affectionately known, just talking about, we're not going to do it anymore. I'm done. That's not happening. First line of the film is like, no, forget it. Not happening. I love that. We see this couple in the middle of conversation. Like, this world happens with or without us. And I love that.
Yeah. Yes.
The idea that we're not a part of this story. We are just looking in for a bit of this insane world that Tarantino has created, not for us, but for himself.
Yeah, and hasn't he mastered that by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? But hasn't he just mastered that exact thing that you just said?
Yeah, it's amazing. Every single time, I just feel like we're getting to look just for a couple hours into his world. It's like, he didn't make a movie for awards. He didn't make it for me. He didn't make it for you. He made it for Quentin Tarantino. And we get the honor of getting to see it. That's no other filmmaker does that as well as he does. Just pure, unadulterated, unapologetic ego. He doesn't give a fuck about me, about you, about anybody. He's going to do his movie his way, and fuck you if you think differently.
So American. Yeah, he is. As far as American cinema goes, modern American cinema, he is the most tenacious filmmaker we have.
Yeah.
Hands down. What he did with, specifically what he did with Inglourious Bastards and Once Upon a Time with Hollywood, taking evil things and vibes from history and completely turning them upside down, fucking with them, making fun of them for their ridiculous teachings, killing them, violently rebelling against. It's incredible, the balls he has to kind of fuck with fiction. It's incredible that he's able to do that.
Yeah, and nobody calls him on it, or if they do, he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah. Oh, there's plenty. There's what have you? I know the podcast Film Spotting, they've got a few panel members who can't stand him, and that's just like, whatever, man. Like, have fun. Have fun being half, glass is half empty all the time. Tarantino's a half glass full. It's pulp. It's pulp. He literally he explains to you what's going to happen in his career. He explains to you. And Pulp Fiction is like, here you go. If you're on board, cool. I'll get my $200 million every time a movie comes out because my name's on it. I don't need the rest of you. But you and I, Connor, we're gonna always go see these movies, and so are the rest of his fans, because that's who it's for. And it's like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. It's that kind of a deal.
Even when he wins Oscars, he's like, well, okay, fine, I'll take it.
Yeah, sure.
He's never like, oh my God, this is such a dream. He's always like, yeah, all right, yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah, he's like, did you guys see Unstoppable with Chris Pine? that Tony Scott film? Yeah, have y'all seen that? Yeah. That's how that's like, yeah, he doesn't care, Yeah, he's more concerned about just like always honing his craft and just getting better. Like, I'll always respect him because of he gets better. And even though his ego is giant, there's something there telling him to keep working. That he still hasn't reached like a mountaintop because he's never going to, because he's always going to keep learning and making better movies. Trying new things, and that I'm so grateful for his filmography.
Yeah, me too, man. Every one of his films I can put on and just enjoy for 2.5 hours.
Me too. I really feel that way. And Pulp Fiction is like the pinnacle of that. It's like, I'll jump in at any moment, any scene it's on. I'll jump in. I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm in. I'm all in for the ride. Every bit is good. Absolutely.
So as we get to know this couple, we realize what they do is they rob liquor stores, and they're starting to rob restaurants just because they don't want to have day jobs. That's their whole. They don't need to do this. They just don't want to work day jobs.
I love this scene. I love Tim Roth just explaining. I also love when he gets to have his accent and just really go for it. I love when he's explaining. He's like, oh, everybody robs, gas stations and this and that. He's like, but restaurants, like, the manager doesn't give a shit. He's like, he's gonna give the register over. He's like, waitress, they get paid $1 an hour. She doesn't give a shit. He's like, the busser, why the hell would he care? He's explaining that no one in this establishment is gonna care because of like insurance, because it'll be covered. Why would they step in front of a bullet for this place that doesn't matter to them? And so all of that being said, and then we don't see them. They stand up and he's like, all right, this is a fucking robbery. And then you have a classic line from Amanda Plummer. All right, you pricks. And the music, it just jumps right off. The title cards are incredible, and you're in a world. You're in the hands of Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, you're in the hands of a filmmaker who is gonna go as far as he fucking needs to go.
Yes.
There is no compromising with this guy. And we've come to expect that.
Yeah.
But at the time,
gotten used to it. Yeah.
At the time, though, nobody had seen anything like this. This was a new kind of movie. It was weird. Tarantino brought a fan's eye to film. And
that's such a beautiful way of putting it, because he's always talked about, don't go to film school, watch films. That's always been his attitude, because that's how he became, the passionate man he is about movies. Yeah. And he still is a student. And I would love to talk about his theater in Beverly Hills later on, as we get down through this plot. But this is this is him introducing, like, here I am. I've officially arrived, because Reservoir Dogs is just not nearly as quirky as Pulp Fiction.
Or tight. It's not as, like, Pulp Fiction is it's a tightly wound clock.
Well-oiled machine.
Yes, it's just, it's perfect. Reservoir Dogs is great, but it's a little cracked. And that's to be expected. I mean, it was his first movie. And,
it's still incredible. Yeah, it's one of the greatest debuts ever. Yeah.
Yes, straight up. And so Pulp opens to the music of Dick Dale and the Deltones. The Mr. Lou has some surfer music. It's fucking perfect. Become iconic because of this movie.
Yep.
And then halfway through the opening credits, we hear the radio change to Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie.
Dan, 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 Jungle Boogie. Yeah, and again, you're like, what? You can do that? You're allowed to do that in this kind of a movie that's got, clearly got good funding and is like a big production. You're just gonna like in the middle of your title card just and change the radio station drastically. That is just such a cool touch.
Oh, for sure. And then we are introduced to Jules and Vincent, who are just talking about Amsterdam and the differences between American McDonald's and McDonald's in Amsterdam, because Vincent had just gotten back from Amsterdam after being there for 3 years, and Tarantino in real life had just been to Amsterdam, so he incorporated some of his the things he noticed into his film. And it's a great introduction to these guys. I mean, these guys are hitmen for a crime boss, and our intro to is Vincent talking about what a quarter pounder with cheese is in Paris, and what do they call it?
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. Goddamn. I don't know why that's so cool.
And what do they call a Big Mac? La Big Mac.
Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac.
La Big Mac. Yeah. Yeah. Though, I mean, that really, when you really think about Pulp Fiction, that's kind of the stuff that comes to your mind first, right? Is Vincent Vega and Jules talking about the foot massage, talking about the Royale with cheese, and then the classic lines that Jules consistently say what again? All of that is really what, like, when I talk to people and you're just kind of quoting it, that's where all this shit is, that's where a lot of the cultural impact is.
Yeah. Well, another thing Tarantino's really good at is pointless dialogue. Like, people shooting the shit, because that's how people talk. I mean, if you know two friends who are on their way to go kill somebody for a gangster, they're not going to be talking about, the morality of it. They're going to be saying, like, hey, I just got back from Amsterdam. They use mayonnaise over there instead of ketchup. Like, it's just mindless chatter. But it fits the characters so well that it drags you in. You believe it.
Yeah, and it's all patience. It requires that patience to actually get through. Because, you would have so many films that I think you and I have seen plenty of, where there may be a hitman-like character or a couple guys going up to do a job, and the banter is like, what is this? These guys are like these two stupid jocks or something. Here we have actual context, actual comedy within the situation, humor within like a dark situation, where Jules says, like, that's not in the same ballpark, like, it's not in the same league, it's not even the same fucking sport. And they're talking about eating a girl out and a foot massage. What is going on? But when you like break it down, you're like you said, this is how dudes like just talk at work. This is people. This is how people talk, and it's patient. It's dragged out because there's fucking 24 hours in a day. I think you can, drag out a conversation in a movie, and Tarantino is so good at giving the context before we even get to the actual door where they're about to walk in. You already know these guys already.
Yeah, and not just that, but they're cool and they're calculated. And this is not their first hit. You get the vibe that this is something they do on a daily basis. With
the same suits that the Reservoir Dog cats are wearing.
Yeah, just to, like almost like this is a different side of that same syndicate. Like
the Los Angeles, yeah.
Yeah, like Joe Cabot worked for Marcellus Wallace. That's always the vibe I got from this.
Yes, me too.
So cool. So over the course of this dialogue, we learn that Vincent is supposed to take out Marcellus Wallace, their boss, his wife, for a good time, because Marcellus is going to be out of town, and Vincent's a little nervous about doing this. It's the big man's wife. Everyone's kind of like, so you're taking me out on a date? And he's constantly saying, like, it's not a date. It's like if you were going to take your buddy's wife to a movie or something. I always like that line.
Yeah, it's like, wait,
he's trying to convince himself that it's not a date.
which keeps coming into play. It's great, yeah. God, I love that bit. Yeah.
So they go into this apartment with these bunch of teenagers, like these young kids. I always wonder, like, what the fuck did they do to warrant this kind of treatment from Marcellus Wallace? Clearly they took this briefcase, but like, what was the context?
How did they get this briefcase? And where exactly what is the origin of this briefcase? Yeah, I immediately, obviously it has the classic to open is 666. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think has something to do with somebody's soul being sold to the devil. A lot of people think they're the diamonds from Reservoir Dogs.
That's what I subscribe to. That's what I think they are.
I think so too. I think because of the suits, and I think is his name Jimmy? Tarantino's character in Pulp Fiction? Yeah, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. I think he is. Who does he play? Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they might be the same person. So, working.
Mr. Brown's killed though in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. I don't know how all the time works though. I'm not sure because Pulp Fiction, maybe it's possible that it happens prior. I don't know. I've read theories that it happens prior maybe to Reservoir Dogs, but then the briefcase needs to be stolen for it to be. I don't know, man.
What I think happened is, if we're talking that Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are connected in that way, I think that the events of Reservoir Dogs went down, everybody got shot.
Yes.
And these diamonds are just, there. And these kids heard gunshots. They went over there. They found these diamonds. They took them home. Marcellus found out about this and went and sent Vincent and Jules to go deal with this. And maybe Jimmy is Mr. Brown's like twin brother or something. That's why he has this criminal connection to Jules.
There you go. Yeah, in the LA Syndicate. Yeah. That's very possible. I definitely think that's like more what it is. I just always question what happens when Mr. Pink runs out. What are those other gunshots? Was it the cops? Because you feel as though the cops would have confiscated that briefcase. I don't know. And then I agree with you. Those young dudes could be roaming around Los Angeles just getting something to eat at the Big Kahuna Burger and stumble across this briefcase, and of course they would take it. But it just seems like he knows Marcellus Wallace, because when he's like, what does he look like? And he eventually says he's black.
Well, what about this? Maybe Brett works in police lockup.
Okay.
Maybe he's the evidence clerk, and he knows about Marcellus Wallace because they all know about Marcellus Wallace. He's the gangster who runs L.A. And he took the diamonds, and Marcellus obviously found out about this and went to go deal with that. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're just spitballing here. There's nothing to back this up.
Oh yeah, it could all just be no connection at all. But it's very much fun to think about. And this is a great opening scene. So let's continue. What's going on here in this apartment building?
So these kids, there's three guys in here, and they are fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And Brett is sitting at the table eating a burger, and I love how Jules is like, let me guess, you're Brett. And he's like, yep. He's, what do you have in burgers? Like, what kind? Like, where'd you get them? This new place, Big Kahuna Burger, which pops up again in From Dusk Till Dawn. That's one of Tarantino's. Yeah. He makes his own brands, which I love.
Red Apple
cigarettes, Big Kahuna Burger.
So cool.
And Jules, to establish dominance, takes Brett's burger and takes a bite of it and then drinks up his Sprite. This is a tasty burger. Like, he's so unhinged, and Brett is just so terrified. It's a great way to establish exactly who's in charge here. And Vincent, meanwhile, is in the kitchen just smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. I mean, he's at one point, you have check out the big brain on Brett. And
you're a smart motherfucker.
Yeah, and he asks Vincent Vega, he's like, what do they call it? And he's like, Royal cheese. Like, he gets to quote that again while he's just kind of roaming around. I love the guy on the couch. When he initially walks in, Jules walks in, and he's like, no, keep chilling. And the guy's foot is like about to hit the floor, and Samuel Jackson just does that little, he slightly raises his hand like, no, put your foot back up. And then he gives him the A-OK sign, like, all right, everybody good now? I'm going to kill one of you.
He asked Marvin, the guy by the door, where the goods are, and the guy on the couch starts to answer, and Jules turns around and goes, I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. Like, damn, immediate change in tone here.
just don't speak unless spoken to.
Yeah. And then Marvin tells him, it's in the cabinet. Vincent finds it and opens the briefcase for that ominous glow that makes everyone think that it's Marcellus's soul.
Yes, yes.
And now that they have it, Brett tries to talk his way out of getting killed here. And I love when he tries to stand up and Jules just raises his hand like, no.
Yeah. Again, you're just asserting dominance. Yeah. Well, and of course, early on, Jules does the classic with his coat. He flips it up to flash his piece, like, that is in my pocket. And we're both strapped. So if you guys try anything, and then you have quite possibly the greatest line from the entire movie of, did I break your concentration?
Oh yeah.
As Jules begins to question Brett, he's eating, like you said, he's eating the Big Kahuna burger. He takes the Sprite. Can I have some of this tasty beverage? That all that is hilarious, and then, like you said, I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. And then he's specifically talking to Brett, and he's asking him, what does Marcellus Wallace look like? And he keeps saying what. And then he shoots the guy on the couch. And of course, everybody's kind of like, even Vincent's kind of like, whoa. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? And that is a line that Samuel Jackson just pulls off perfectly. And of course, Brett is now saying what over and over and over.
Oh, you were finished. Well, allow me to retort. Christ, he is so good.
Does he look like a bitch? Then why'd you try to fuck him like a bitch?
You did. Yes, you did, Brett.
So we got a guy who's dying right here on the couch, right? We got a guy over here by the door who's freaked out, who is told, I didn't ask you a goddamn thing. And we got Brett here who gets shot in the leg. And then I'll let you talk about this Bible verse here.
Oh yeah. So Brett gets shot in the shoulder after he keeps saying what and pisses off Jules.
Yes.
And Jules brings up, there's this. You ever read the Bible, Brett? And he's like, no. Well, there's this passage I got memorized.
He's holding his arm. No.
Sort of fits this occasion. Ezekiel 25:17, and here we go. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. And then he and Vincent blow Brett's brains out.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
leaving for now, leaving a survivor who is going to be in the car with them. Yeah,
Marvin. And this is your introduction to Vincent and Jules, pretty much.
Yeah, this is what they do for a living here. Yeah.
Yep. And then we get story number 1, Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife. And from there we go to a strip club run by Marcellus Wallace, where he's talking to washed-up boxer Butch Coolidge, telling him that he is going to throw the fight in order to get Marcellus an extra, payday. And Butch is not happy about this. But this is a great intro to Marcellus, because you don't see him at first. He's not in the frame. It's just zoomed in on Bruce Willis, and he's just kind of glaring at Marcellus. And Ving Rhames plays Marcellus Wallace, and he's telling Butch about, if you were going to make it as a boxer, you would have made it by now. How many fights do you think you got left in you? And during all this, Al Green's Let's Stay Together is playing. It's
bam, bam, bam. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. He says one of my favorite lines in the movie is, the night of the fight, you might feel a sting. That's pride fucking with you.
Oh, and
fuck pride.
And we get that line later in the pawn shop. Hell yeah.
Goddamn. In the 5th, your ass goes down.
Let me hear you say it.
Yeah. In the 5th, my ass goes down. Ugh, Jesus.
Pack red apples.
Yeah. Jules and Vincent walk in wearing like shorts and t-shirts. Something happened there. And Butch goes up to talk to, or to get some red apples, and he's Vincent staring at him just to instigate some shit. Butch says, "You looking at something, friend?" And he says, "You ain't my friend, Palooka." Like such a weird thing to say. I think you heard me just fine, Punchy.
I love Butch.
And Vincent Marcellus calls Vincent over, and they exchange the briefcase. All's good. And then we go see Vincent go over to pick up some heroin from his buddy Lance, played by Eric Stoltz. And this guy's so weird, but so believable as an LA drug dealer in the mid-90s.
Especially a guy who's like, I love Lance. Possibly my favorite character of the entire movie. He's incredible. When he's explaining, like, oh man, like heroin's back, like, and
Coke
he's
is
right.
Dead as dead.
He's right. Like as far as like celebrities and popularity, like in Los Angeles, like in the 70s, heroin had this crazy where it's like, oh my God, look at the power of this. And in the 80s, cocaine has this insane surgence. And then in the 90s, due to like all the music scene and whatnot, heroin just was like cool to do. It was like totally acceptable to like just drive around on the highway on heroin. And I hope that doesn't repeat itself. I hope the 90s don't happen again in that regard.
No, I don't. Right now, the big one's meth.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, there's whole states that have problems with that shit.
Yeah. Well, Lance is. I mean, you can tell, him and Vincent have a relationship. He's been buying from Lance for a while. He's a friend. And Lance introduces him to this new shit he got. This stuff from was it
Germany?
Choco from Germany.
Yeah, because he has I love that when he has 3 different kinds and he's like, the first 2 are about the same, but this third one is a little more expensive. But you're gonna know where that extra money went when you put, just totally casually talking about heroin. It's incredible. It's amazing.
And I love Vincent's like, well, I just got back from Amsterdam, and he's like, look, I'll take the fucking Pepsi challenge with that Amsterdam shit any day of the fucking week. Vincent's like, that's a bold statement.
I'll take the Pepsi. Yes. God, Lance is incredible.
And Vincent buys some grams of this Choco, which Lance calls the Madman because it fucking kicks.
From the Alps in Germany.
Yeah, this is. Oh my God. Oh boy. And he puts it in a baggie instead of a balloon, which is important later because Mia is a cokehead and she thinks, typically heroin comes in a balloon, coke comes in a baggie, so that's why she's so quick to snort this shit because she thinks it's coke. Especially
that amount of that he's just casually carrying heroin.
That is a
heroin around.
Ton of heroin that he's just has.
He has enough heroin to for like a whole grunge party or something. It's like it's just in his trench coat. Like, here we go. You guys ready to party? Crazy.
He's got enough heroin to kill at least 5 rock stars.
Yeah. That's mostly where I was getting at. Yeah. God.
I love that he's talking about, like, he buys some from Lance, and he's like, you mind if I shoot up here? And he's like, nah, mi casa es su casa. And just Vincent pulls out a kit and starts putting his shit together. And they're talking about Vincent's car that recently got out of, he got it out of storage, and he says somebody keyed it. And there's a theory going that Butch is the one who keyed Vincent's car because he pissed him off at Marcellus's place.
Well, he definitely gets him later. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. And then we just see Vincent driving through L.A. at night, just stoned out of his mind on heroin, just enjoying the breeze. I mean, this guy must have some fucking tolerance if he can do that shit and go for a drive.
I love the idea. Yeah, he's like, mi casa su casa. Let's just do some drugs together, and then he just drives off like, oh, I got this shit to do. Like, you have this shit to do. You have to go take care of, like you said, the wife of the runner of the Los Angeles, crime syndicate. So I don't think you should just be on heroin. But like you said, Vincent Vega's tolerance is through the roof.
Yeah. Well, he's been in Amsterdam taking some heavy shit.
Yeah, he says what does he say? 3 years. He says to
Yeah, to Mia.
To Mia while they're at dinner. Yeah.
And so he goes to pick up Mia, and Mia's getting ready, and the song "Son of a Preacher Man" by Dusty Springfield starts playing. Another iconic music moment from Tarantino's world. And we see Mia is a cokehead. She snorts up before they get ready to go, and they go to this restaurant called Jack Rabbit Slim's, this like old Hollywood themed restaurant, which I really don't like. That I really wish it was a real place. It looks like such a cool.
I know, joint. Man. I know. I would definitely try to get a reservation there.
And I go in there, and the waiters are all dressed as 50s icons. There's a dude as playing Ricky Nelson doing some music. The host looks like Ed Sullivan. And they sit in the car, and Buddy Holly is their waiter, and it's a brief cameo by Steve Buscemi, which is just fucking awesome. And Mia orders a $5 shake, and Vincent's a little bit like, he's incredulous, like, that's a milkshake, that's milk and ice cream, that's $5. You don't put bourbon in it or anything, and he's like,
just making sure, just checking.
And later on, when the milkshake comes, he's like, can I try that? I gotta know what a $5 milkshake tastes like. And he drinks it, and he's like, God damn, that's an amazing fucking milkshake. He loses his shit over this milkshake.
Well, yeah, he's on heroin. It probably tastes fucking amazing.
Goddamn, I love it. We used to work at the Alamo Draft House here in Texas, and for the longest time on their menu, they had the $5 milkshake and a Royale with cheese.
Yeah.
This movie has influenced their menu more than any movie. And I love that. And they still have the Royale with cheese. The milkshake is gone. I mean, they still have milkshake, but it's not the $5 shake. It's more like the $8.50 shake now. Greedy bastards.
Pulp Fiction is like the definition of a Alamo Drafthouse movie. You know, it's just one of those kind of badass cinema movies. Yeah. Just
I worked a screening of it once, and they handed out, they had gourmet coffee and a big Kahuna burger. It was their Royale with cheese, but they added pineapple to it.
That's great. That's great.
It was pretty cool. So they do the twist competition, another iconic moment. They dance the twist to Chuck Berry's "You Never Can Tell." They win. They get the trophy. They go back home, and there's a spark. Ooh, is Vincent gonna cross the line with Mia? Probably yes, if Mia hadn't snorted all that heroin.
Yeah.
Vincent goes into the bathroom to psych himself out of what he's thinking of doing here, and Mia puts on some Urge Overkill, the song "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon," and starts kind of fidgeting around in Vincent's jacket that she's wearing, and she finds a baggie full of mysterious powder, and she takes it upon herself to just have a personal party with that shit. I love Vincent's in the bathroom just talking to himself like, this is a test to see if you can maintain loyalty, because loyalty is very important. Like, he's just he's giving himself a pep talk, and announced to don't fuck the boss's daughter. I mean, wife, don't do that. Just don't do that, man.
This is the scene where I think got him the Oscar nomination, man. I think his work with this whole bit of him doing heroin to the stuff he's doing at Jack Rabbit Slim is like, fuck, that's a pretty good milkshake, you know. And then to all the way to this, it's just remarkable.
Yeah. What did you say? You're gonna go out there, say goodnight, go home, jerk off, and that's all you're gonna do.
Finish your drink.
Don't be rude. Drink your drink, but do it quickly.
Don't be rude. Yeah, incredible stuff. And then he comes out to a pretty much overdosed Mia.
It's a freaky scene. It's done really well. Mia snorts the line of heroin. It's way too much for her. She starts bleeding out of the nose and then just passes out on the floor. Vincent comes out and is like, oh, fuck me. He's so terrified. And he grabs Mia, puts her in his car, and starts driving to Lance's house.
Yeah.
Lance, he calls Lance, and who doesn't answer the phone immediately. He waits for the phone to ring like 8 times.
He's like watching cartoons, eating Fruit Loops.
Yeah, it's a fake cereal called Fruit Brute.
Wow, I was just taking a guess. I didn't know what kind of cereal. That's great.
Pretty close.
That's amazing.
So he's talking.
He just seems like a Fruit Loop kind of guy. Just he's always high off his ass. Oh, Fruit Loops. Yeah.
Well, he calls Lance and tells I got this chick. She's ODing on me, man. And he's like, well, don't bring her here. Are you crazy? She's like, she's fucking dying on me, man. Like when you bite the bullet, you call a lawyer and you go to a hospital.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, man. I need help me.
I'm coming there. And he's like, wait, are you calling from a cellular device? Who is this? Prank call.
I don't know you. Who is the prank caller? I love that. And then immediately after, Vincent shows up and runs right into Lance's house and starts dragging Mia onto the lawn.
What the fuck are you doing? You just drove into my house. He's like, do you know who Marcellus Wallace is? Oh, man.
I love he stumbles a bit. Like, if you do not help, I will be forced to tell him that you let her die. Like, Vincent's falling apart right now.
Oh, yeah. Because he's Mr. Cool, and this is fucking with his night.
Yeah, the, worst fucking thing he could have done is let Mia die while Marcellus is out of town. So they drag her in, and Lance is like, all right, we got to give her an adrenaline shot. He's trying to find his little black medical book. He goes to get the shot, and Vincent keeps calling him back, and he's like, get the shot. Oh my God. It's so fucking tense, no matter how many times I see this movie.
Iconic. This scene is so punk rock, too, because you have these such ragtag people, all these junkies hanging out, just trying to figure out a way to get this girl, back to life. It's incredible.
Lance comes back with the shot and tells Vincent, he has to do it, and Vincent's like, I'm not gonna give her the shot. You give her the shot. He's like, no, man, you brought her here. You give her the shot. The day I bring an ODing bitch to your house, I'll give her the shot.
That's such a icon. I love when he does the motion. He does it 3 times. He's like, I gotta stab her 3 times. No, it's just once. You just gotta do it hard enough to get to the breastplate.
Then what happens? Well, I'm kind of curious about that myself. This isn't a joke, man. Just tell me. Am I gonna kill her? What?
I'm kind of curious about that myself.
My God. And then we have one of the most iconic scenes in the film where Vincent just rams that thing down into Mia's chest and brings her back. It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
And once they realize Mia's okay, Vincent just collapses in relief.
Say something. Something.
He takes her home. Barely a word is exchanged. And
she tells that joke finally from the Jackrabbit Slims, the pilot joke finally.
The pilot that sounds a lot like Kill Bill.
Yep, we can talk about that later or right now, whatever you want, because it's definitely Kill Bill. Yeah.
And Vincent's like, all right, well, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go home and have a heart attack. he's had enough for one night, and they agree not to tell Marcellus about what happened because he's gonna fuck both of them up if he finds out about this.
Yeah, smart.
More Vincent than Mia, but yeah, she's going to get reprimanded and he's going to get buried somewhere. And that's our first story. We follow that with the gold watch. And this is such a weird fucking story. But you know what? It's great.
I absolutely adore this stretch so much. Yeah.
Oh, boy. So we open on an extremely racist looking cartoon that young Butch is watching in 1973. And a soldier, Captain Coons, played by Christopher Walken, shows up to tell Butch about the story of his father's watch. It belonged to Butch's great-grandfather, who took it to World War I with him. Butch's grandfather took it to World War II. And Butch's father took it to Vietnam. This is a legacy watch, his birthright. It's the weirdest story to tell to a child.
And Christopher Walken telling it too. I stuck this up my ass for 2 years.
He's talking about, he says so many racial slurs about the Vietnamese. Be damned if any slope's going to get their hands on my son's watch. It's so fucked up. What he had to, he hid the watch. The only place he could hide something, his ass. Just so matter of factly. He hid this watch up his ass for 5 years. He died of dysentery, probably from hiding the fucking watch up your ass. You give me the watch. I had this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my ass 2 years. I come home to my family, and here I am. The watch, little man, is yours. It's such a fucking weird scene. But it's so good, and it explains perfectly why Butch goes to the ends of the fucking earth to get this watch back.
Yes. Again, patience.
Yeah. Now, little man, the watch is yours. It's oh my god, I could talk like him all day.
I love Christopher Walken, especially this era.
Oh, without a doubt, man. I fucking adore Walken.
I mean, yeah, he had just done True Romance, so come on.
Who am I? I'm the Antichrist. You got me in a vendetta kind of mood. Oh my god.
Best line Tarantino has ever written.
Yeah, argument could be made for sure. Oh, you're a cantaloupe. Anyway, so Butch wakes up from this dream he had about the watch, and he goes to fight Floyd Ray Wilson, kills him in the ring, does not throw the fight, fucks up Marcellus's whole game. He gets the hell out of there, calls up his bookie, who he bet on himself to win, and now he's going to collect a huge payday. And he goes to hide out with his girlfriend Fabienne in a motel. And there's a theory that Fabienne is pregnant here, which explains quite a lot of his motivation. And we see Vincent get called to Marcellus's office, and Marcellus wants Butch. He wants his ass. Like, it is personal. He fucked over Marcellus personally. And Jules isn't with him anymore. We'll find out why at the end. And so Vincent is sent alone to go deal with Butch. Like, I love the one guy asked Marcellus, like, how far are you willing to take this? And he's like, I'm willing to scour the earth for the motherfucker. Like, this is personal shit.
Yeah. Rightly so. I mean, we saw them have the conversation, and he's like, your ass goes down in the fifth. And he says, my ass goes down in the fifth.
You don't fuck over Marcellus. We saw what happened with Brett. You do not screw over this guy. So in the morning, the plan is to get on a train, go to Knoxville, collect the money, then leave the country. But Fabienne, when she was packing, forgot the watch. Butch freaks the fuck out over this, throws the TV across the room in the hotel room, and scares the shit out of her. And then he has to go back to his apartment, which is being watched by gangsters, to get this watch.
Yeah.
He goes back to his apartment. He goes inside, and it's seemingly empty. So he grabs the watch, puts in some Pop-Tarts, and finds a silenced Uzi on his kitchen table. Oh, my God. And he picks up the gun. We hear the toilet flush, and Vincent comes out of the bathroom to see Butch holding his gun. And he just kind of freezes. He has no words. Vincent Vega, expert hitman, dies in the stupidest way possible. Oh my God.
I mean, it's an amazing touch as the little like Pop-Tarts come out of the toaster. It's like bam, the shot happens. Yeah, it's just incredible. It's just an awesome little touch. And that scene is some of my favorite. Back to Sally's work on the film editing. When he's walking into that apartment, that whole bit is so fucking Los Angeles, and it's so like gritty. And Tarantino obviously has like a romance with the city of Los Angeles. It's like I adore following Butch going through that like apartment complex and just kind of like always on the lookout. I could watch a 2-hour movie of just Butch on the run.
Yeah, he's a character I'd like to revisit.
I could watch a Vincent Vega movie of him in Amsterdam. I could watch a Jules Winfield movie just in Inglewood. Yeah, man, it's all these characters have so much depth off of just like 5 minutes of honest, context, real conversations.
Yeah, for sure. So Butch kills Vincent, big shocker in the middle of the movie, and wipes down the gun and leaves, and now thinks he's home free. He beat the gangsters, and he's driving back to the motel. He's got his watch. He's listening to some Statler Brothers. Yeah. Flowers on the Wall, great song.
It is an awesome song. I listen to that one in the car a lot, just like I'm Butch.
And as he's driving back, who should walk in front of his car but Marcellus Wallace himself holding coffee and donuts? He went with Vincent.
He was the one who took Jules' place for this job. I'm going to do this personally.
I love that bit where they just connect eyes. And Marcellus,
motherfucker.
And Butch is like, are you fucking kidding me? And he just drives right into Marcellus, knocks his ass out. He gets T-boned, and we see then from Marcellus' point of view, he wakes up. There's a bunch of people surrounding them, like, "Hey man, if you need someone to go to court, I will. I saw the whole thing." And then he takes out a gun, starts chasing down Butch, shoots some girl, and they just start having a limp chase down the streets of L.A.
Incredible. He's like, yeah, that man just hit you and drove off. Who? Him. I'll be damned. And he pulls out this like fucking
hand cannon. It's
this like Beretta. Yeah, just like, hey, it's like got chrome, it's like Liberace's AK-47. and he just proceeds to open fire on in the middle of this street. And that is one of the most breathtaking scenes of the whole movie, when Ving Rhames is swaying this big, giant, brooding force, like, boom, boom, going down that alleyway, and Bruce Willis runs up against the wall, hides, and he's like, oh, shit.
They both got bruises, breaks, and concussions, but they are fucking determined.
Both limping, and then finally, Butch decides to just dive into a pawn shop, which wound up being the dumbest decision he could have made.
Fuck yeah, man. God, just because Fabian forgot the watch, this whole fucking day happens. And Marcellus goes in the pawn shop, follows him. Butch grabs him, puts him to the ground, starts punching him. Feel that sting, big boy?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's pride. Fucking with you. Just boom. Oh, my God. And he goes to shoot him. He puts his gun to his head, and the pawn shop guy, Maynard, whips out a shotgun and tells Butch to step away. And Butch is like, you don't understand, man. Like, he's trying to, just let me kill this guy, please. And Maynard knocks out Butch. Marcellus is already knocked out. And this is when it gets weird. This is the scene that a lot of people have issues with this movie. Like, it keeps them from watching it. I know my mom is one of those. She hasn't seen this movie in over 20 years because of this scene. And I get it to an extent, but there's so much about this movie that's so great. If you can just kind of let this go.
Yeah, and this, I understand it. I just think what ends up happening is like kind of rewarding. When we'll get into it. We'll just start talking about it. But I do think what Butch does is rewarding.
So Maynard calls his cousin Zed, played by Peter Green, one of the creepiest weirdos of the 90s. And Zed shows up, and then we open to Butch and Marcellus tied up with ball gags in their mouths in the basement of this pawn shop. And if you've never seen this, you are like very much caught unaware, freaked out. Like, what did this movie just turn into? And Zed starts, he tells Maynard to bring out the gimp. Like, what the fuck? And they get this guy out of a fucking box who is in full S&M gear, leather, shit. Just, it's you know what it is. If you know what it is, you do. If you don't, I don't have time to explain it to you.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't really feel like it either. Yeah.
Yeah. So Zed starts doing eeny, meeny, miny, moe to pick who he's going to have his way with first, and he picks Marcellus, and they drag Marcellus into this other room. And Butch is just like, he doesn't know how to process this.
Yeah, the door's closed. Now it's just him and the gimp.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm not having this. No way.
My favorite track on the soundtrack starts playing, Comanche by the Rebels. It's so tense, man. That it fits the situation so good. So you hear Zed and Maynard just getting it on in the other room. You hear muffled screams from Marcellus, and Butch manages to break his chair, punches out the gimp, goes upstairs, and is about to leave the pawn shop before having a bit of a attack of conscience where he's like, I wouldn't do this to my worst enemy, which is exactly what's happening because Marcellus is his worst enemy. Mm-hmm. But he's like, no man deserves this. So he goes behind the counter to grab a weapon, and I love his search for a weapon. He grabs a hammer. He picks up a
baseball bat,
and he picks up a little chainsaw.
And he's like,
he looks off to the side, and you just see his eyes go like, yeah. And he picks up a fucking samurai sword. Did you get more Tarantino than that? My God. Fucking kill Butch up in here.
Oh, man.
So Butch goes downstairs, sword in hand, opens the door, gets Maynard from behind. He opens the door to see Zed just straight up raping Marcellus. Jesus. And Maynard's like, he likes to watch. It's fucked up, man. It's weird.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. And Butch just kills Maynard with the sword, catches Zed with his pants down, literally, tells him to go for the gun, and he's like, come on, big boy. Come on. There you go. Oh, that a boy. And you see Marcellus stand up behind Butch and cock a shotgun. And he just like, step aside, Butch. And Butch steps aside, and Marcellus shoots Zed right in the dick. Immediate boom. Blasts his ass across the room.
You hear me, hillbilly boy?
I ain't through with you by a damn sight. I'm gonna get medieval on your ass. That might be my favorite line in the movie.
That whole Ving Rhames bit, and Bruce Willis is holding the sword like he's a samurai, like boom, just locked in.
He also say like holding it like, am I gonna have to use this on Marcellus next?
Exactly. He's like, now I took care of that, but we're still not like cool.
Yeah.
Which then Marcellus does, even, he does like respect the like code of man, but he's like, you no longer have Los Angeles privilege. You do not come to this city.
And you never tell anybody about this.
Yeah, it's between me, you, and hillbilly boy right here.
What is it, Mr. Soon to be living the rest of his life in agonizing pain? Rapist here. Jesus Christ.
I'm not through with you by damn sight.
Butch asks, what now? And he's like, let me tell you what now. I'm going to get a couple of
hard
big old
pipe
hitting. Like,
yeah, it's insane.
Go to work on this guy with a pair of pliers and a blowtorch.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a work of art from Ving Rhames right there. All of that.
But what a knock down the totem pole, man. Like, the most feared man in LA got ass raped by a security guard, and only Butch knows about this. So this would destroy Marcellus's street cred. Like, obliterate. He would cease to be Marcellus Wallace. So I think, given Butch, carte blanche, say like, fuck off, I won't mess with you, you don't tell anybody about this, makes sense, and it's good for both of them.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
No. I have a hard time saying it, but that's my favorite chunk of the movie, is from the moment that he decides, oh my God, I have to go back to get this damn watch. And he finds the gun, he ends up killing Vincent Vega, thinks he's free, runs into Marcellus. They have this incredible showdown in the middle of the streets of Los Angeles.
Yeah. Into
a pawn shop where we go down this rabbit hole of nasty underground Los Angeles. And then we have two rapists get murdered. It's like, okay, cool, yeah, fuck those guys, like that's what. And Tarantino does that so often, where he's like, it's gonna get dark for a minute, but I'm going to kill these fuckers,
Yeah, without a doubt. So he takes off on Zed's motorcycle, goes and picks up Fabian, and she's like, what happened to my Honda? And Butch is like, I'm sorry, baby, I had to crash that Honda. He's like, whose chopper is this? Zed's. Who's Zed? Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Bam.
And then drives off. Like, that's Butch's story. What the fuck, man?
It's so good.
And now we have story number 3, the Bonnie situation. And this might be my favorite. I don't know. It changes from time to time. So we go back in time 3 days earlier, right after Jules and Vincent killed Brett, took the briefcase. We see another guy that nobody said was in there, has been hiding in the bathroom with a fucking Magnum. And after Jules and Vincent kill Brett, this guy bursts out of the bathroom going, "Die, you motherfuckers!" and shoots him and misses all 6 shots. And Jules and Vincent look at themselves like, okay, and then blast him and blow him away.
And that's when Jules is like, oh, this is a sign from God. Like,
we should be fucking dead, man. And Jules has a straight up change of heart. He realizes, this was a miracle. God intervened. This is a sign. I have to, do his will. And Vincent's like, are you fucking kidding me? It was a freak occurrence. Like, no. Like, he just is completely like, why are you doing this, Jules? He's so incredulously bothered. And they leave the apartment with Marvin. And I didn't realize that. According to the plot summary on IMDb, Marvin is Marcellus's inside man.
Yeah. Because he says at one point, he's like, I'm so fucked. After the whole incident happens at the beginning, I always wondered why they because Tarantino puts everything in for a reason.
Yeah.
So I always wonder why they pan to Marvin when he's like, I'm so fucked. Like it must be something. I don't know.
Maybe he's not the inside man. Maybe that's just something they put in there. I don't know. I never caught that vibe from that movie.
I never caught the vibe, but I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. Marvin's played by voice actor Phil Lamar, by the way. He plays a lot of superheroes. He's a great, really talented voice actor. So in the car, Jules and Vincent are arguing about what happened. Jules is convinced it was an act of God, and Vincent's like, look, this shit happens. It's freaky, but it happens. Like, this is our line of work. Weird shit's going to go down. And Jules is like, I don't want you demeaning this. I know what I saw. And Vincent turns around and asks Marvin, like, what is your opinion? And he's like, I don't even have one. And he's like, well, you have to have an opinion. I mean, it might not be, you might not match with what we think. And I don't know what happened, but Vincent fires it by accident and blows Marvin's head off.
Oh, man, I shot Marvin in the face.
Yeah, the whole car fills with blood. And Jules like, why the fuck you do that? I didn't mean to do it. It just happened. And like, the fuck just happened? What? And they're like, we got to get this car off the road.
Yeah, mind you, we're it's broad daylight.
Cops didn't notice thing like a car is covered in blood. He's like, Vincent's like, well, like, do we have anybody? And Jules is like, this is the Valley. I don't have any friends out here. Like, maybe I know this one guy, and he's not home. I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do. And he calls Jimmy, a colleague of his, and says he needs to use his garage for a little bit. So they go to Jimmy's house, and Jimmy's played by Quentin Tarantino. And Jimmy's pissed, obviously.
Rightly so.
There's a dead body and a bloody car in his garage. Jules and Vincent are covered in blood, drinking his coffee. And Jules is commenting on the deliciousness of the coffee, and Tarantino, who's a great filmmaker but a terrible fucking actor, tells him, no, stop complimenting my coffee. I'm the one who buys it. I know how good it is. I'm not concerned about the coffee. I'm concerned about the body in the garage. He didn't say body. He uses this opportunity to drop as many N-bombs as possible for no real reason.
Yeah, it just doesn't obviously not age well. It didn't age well when it came out.
Yeah, it's in pretty poor taste. It doesn't really need to be there. I feel like Tarantino just wanted an excuse to say the N-word on camera and get away with it.
Yeah, be like as abrupt and controversial as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, he's never been one to shy from controversy, but this is just it's in poor taste. It's uncomfortable, and it's unnecessary. So Jimmy says that his wife Bonnie is going to be coming home from a night shift at the hospital in like an hour. So they have to get rid of this shit in an hour. So Jules calls Marcellus to explain, like, look, this is what we got to do. And he's aggravated. And Marcellus is like, look, I'm on this motherfucker. I'm going to call the wolf. Y'all stay, frosty. And Jules is like, shit, that's all you had to say. And he's immediately in good spirits.
Yeah, he's like, oh, the wolf. All right, man. Yeah.
So we meet Winston Wolfe, problem solver. One of the coolest characters that Tarantino's ever made. This inexplicable, like, crime boss superhero dude who just shows up to fix things. And he's played by Harvey Keitel, of course.
Exquisitely.
Yeah. We meet him at like a party or something. He's wearing a tuxedo and he's writing down the names of everybody. And he's like, it's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10. What the fuck? And he just drives up in this Acura in 9 minutes and 40 seconds. It's fucking awesome. I don't know how he did that, but it's awesome. And he goes in to talk to Jimmy, says, this is the plan. He compliments Jimmy on the coffee.
Yeah, which is perfect. What a touch.
Must be good coffee. And gives Jules and Vincent some orders, tells them, like, get to work, gentlemen. Vincent lashes out. A please would be nice. The balls. And Wolf turns around and is like, look, I talk fast. I think fast. I need you to act fast if you want to get out of this. So Pretty please with sugar on top. Clean the fucking car. I love that line.
Pretty please.
So Jules and Vincent are cleaning the car, and Jules is fucking pissed. He is just on Vincent the whole time. Vincent's like, look, I have a threshold for the amount of abuse I will take. Jules is like, really? Well, I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker. I'm Superfly TNT. I'm the Guns of the Navarone. In fact, what the fuck am I doing in the back? You're the motherfucker who should be on brain detail.
God.
It's so perfect.
That's the best page of the script. Just what is all this? Amazing.
Oh man. So they're successful in cleaning the car. They strip and wash themselves off, and they wear these dorky clothes. That's why they were dressed in shorts and t-shirts back at the beginning. And the wolf gets the car over to Monster Joe, junkyard guy, and all is well. Everybody wins. Everybody's fine. Now that there's situations resolved, Jules and Vincent go to have breakfast, and where they continue talking about miracles. And they have that little bit of dialogue where they talk about filthy animals, which I always liked. It's just mindless chatter that you would have with your best friend. Like, yeah, well, that logic, well, then this, it's just more Tarantino knowing how people talk.
Yep. Knowing how two dudes just are like, we just want to pass the time. Yeah.
Jules doesn't eat pigs because he considers them filthy animals. And Vincent has so many problems with Jules' lifestyles. I love that. Everything Jules does, Vincent has to question.
What's the reasoning for that?
Yeah. So Jules continues talking about the miracle and says that now that he knows what he's supposed to do, he's going to tell Marcellus he's out. He's going to give away his apartment. He's going to walk the earth like Kane in Kung Fu, he says. And Vincent's like, so you're going to be a bum? And Jules is like, well, no. I'm going to walk the earth to wherever I'm needed. He's like, yeah, Jules, that's called being a bum. If you have no house, no job, no money, you're a bum. He's really just hammering this home.
Just laying into him, yeah.
And Vincent gets up to take a shit, and Jules says, like, Vincent's like, look, let me tell you something. When did you decide to just give up your entire life? Like, right here while you're eating the muffin? Jules like, yeah, I was eating my muffin, and I decided to leave the life. To be continued. And he goes away. And in the background, we hear Tim Roth yell, Garcon, coffee. It's the scene from the beginning of the movie. Cyclical. Perfect.
Like, coming back around. Yeah.
So they stand up, start robbing the restaurant. And they get everybody out. They start collecting wallets. Tim Roth gets around to Jules, grabs his wallet, and says, what's in the case? Jules is like, my boss's dirty laundry. Your boss makes you get your laundry? Sounds like a shit job. I was just thinking the same thing. Tells him to open the case, and he's like, can't do that. The guy's like, excuse me? You heard me. It's so badass.
You heard me.
Yeah. So Jules opens the briefcase to distract him, grabs his gun, pulls him down, disarms him. Amanda Plummer starts freaking out. And Tim Roth's like, stay cool. It's all right. And Jules has him sit down across from him, tells him to get his wallet. Which one is it? The one that says bad motherfucker. God damn. And then that's Tarantino's wallet, of course.
Yeah. Of course it is.
Oh, God. And he gives Tim Roth all the money in the wallet. And by this time, Vincent's come out of the bathroom and has his gun pointed at Amanda Plummer. And he tells Jules, you give that piece of, what do you say? You give that Nimrod $1,500, I'll shoot him on general principle. He calls him a Nimrod. That's great.
This Nimrod.
My God. So Jules tells Vincent, be cool, no one's getting shot. And Jules tells, Pumpkin, I guess is his name. We don't ever get their full names. And he tells him Ezekiel 25:17, tells him about that and says, they used to just be some cold-blooded shit I said before I killed a motherfucker. If you heard it, it meant your ass. And But he says, but I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be the shepherd. So I gave you the money. From that and the wallets, this looks like a pretty successful score, so get out of here. And they leave. And Jules and Vincent are like, we should probably get the fuck out of here. They take off. And the music Surf Rider by the Lively One starts playing. It's a perfect end of this movie. Bit of score. And yeah, they go to Marcellus' strip club to deliver the case like they did at the beginning, and the movie is over. It's a wild fucking ride.
Yeah, you have the classic written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, and you immediately are like, wait a minute, and then it just doesn't take long to figure out exactly what's going on. But it is such a unique film. Still mainstream movies just don't do this kind of format, don't do this kind of cutting and this kind of editing.
No, you can expect this kind of jarring bit of cinema from only Quentin Tarantino. I mean, many have tried to replicate him since, but nobody's ever come close.
Yeah. That's like all those bands that came after, like Sonic Youth and Nirvana that thought they were grunge, but it's like, no, you're not really. It happens. People try to, emulate greatness, and it just, you can't.
That's right.
Gotta do your own thing.
This is Pearl Jam's Even Flow, and every other movie that tried to replicate it are all the other sounds. Exactly. Like bands from the 90s.
Exactly.
There's so many of them, and they're all fucking terrible. Whatever happened to that noise? That kind of died off after the 90s. The Hootie and the Blowfish, Stone Temple Pilots kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, that 90s, just like garage rock. Even flow.
My God. So, Pulp Fiction, fantastic movie, as per the Filmgazm tradition. 1 to 10 score. This is an easy 10. No other score will do.
Yeah, I had told you, I think I texted you a couple days ago that I feel very similarly to how your Uncle Sean felt about Escape from New York.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie so many times. I don't know. It's one of those where a rating doesn't even seem to do it justice. But yeah, 10 out of 10. I will recognize, again, this is, you can kind of throw Shawshank out there as like a comparison. But because of that, really rough GIMP scene, that whole bit in the pawn shop, and then the scene with Quentin Tarantino actually dropping the N-word over and over, it's a little distasteful and unnecessary for most fans. And Shawshank doesn't have that kind of thing. And not just Shawshank, there's other movies, but that's the one that I think has that kind of caliber. But for me, Pulp Fiction is a 10 out of 10 for so many reasons. I don't think it's really ever going to leave that. It's kind of been that way ever since I first saw it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that about wraps it up for our thoughts on Pulp Fiction. This has been a great first episode of Oscar Sunday. We hope to have many, many more for you. We'll have a Filmgazm on Wednesday and Oscar Sunday on, Sunday.
Yeah.
And we're going to wrap this up with our old recurring segment from Filmgazm moved over here. This week in film. What has been going on in film over the past week? Not a lot, obviously. The film world has slowed down as of late, but there's always something that comes through the cracks. So first off, we talked a bit about this on last week's Rewind on Filmgazm. Ryan Gosling has been cast in a Wolfman reboot by Universal and Blumhouse. Very much looking forward to that. We obviously, we're both big fans of Ryan Gosling, and I don't know about you, but I am personally a big fan of the Wolfman.
Yeah.
So this is going to be neat. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, and excited who's doing it. We feel like we're in good hands, and it's going to be taken care of. So very excited.
Yes, indeed. Next up, Sinister director Scott Derrickson is going to be directing a sequel to Labyrinth. I've never seen Labyrinth. It's on my list, but I am a fan of Scott Derrickson. I love Sinister. I love Doctor Strange. So I think that'll be a very unique take on the Labyrinth world.
Oh, for sure. You'll love the Labyrinth. Yeah.
I'm sure I will. I'm a big Bowie fan, and I love cult, 80s films, so I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy that one for sure.
Henry Cavill is in talks to return as Superman for the DCEU. It was inevitable. I thought, eventually he was going to come back. Didn't take long. Apparently they're just going to be using him for cameos, which seems like a waste of Henry Cavill. But I don't know.
Henry Cavill is really going to get lost as someone who I think did his job fine. I don't think those movies are his fault whatsoever.
Nah.
And he's not going to get his right recognition because the products just aren't that good.
Him and Affleck got lost in just bad writing and bad editing. And I think the Justice League Snyder Cut, the success of that will determine the future of the DCEU with Henry Cavill, and if he decides, if they decide to use him more frequently or just, put him in the background.
Yeah.
Who knows? DC's been a mess for like 10 years now. It's fucking crazy. And then finally, this was inevitable, but it has been announced they are doing a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog, which probably will go down as the most successful film of 2020.
God, that's crazy.
Assuming we don't get anything else, which who knows? I hope not. I hope stuff starts to open back up. Tenet is holding strong for July 17th, I think.
Yeah.
So here's hoping. If things work out, we'll go back to a somewhat normal relationship with the movie theater.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see Sonic the Hedgehog because I never cared about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, me neither. I still haven't. I'll see it at some point maybe, but I'm not making time for it.
Nope. And that concludes our debut episode on Oscar Sunday. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you continue to tune in on a weekly basis to hear us rant about some more highbrow movies, if you will.
Yeah.
And as usual, you can check us out YouTube, iTunes, Podbean. We're hoping to explore further avenues in the future. We'll keep you updated on when and if we are able to do that. Thank you very much for making it this far if you came over from Filmgazm, and if not, well, check out Filmgazm for a little bit more of our movie fix.
Yeah. And if you want to join us next week, we're going to be doing Da 5 Bloods, which is coming out on Netflix on Friday, and then on Sunday we'll be talking about that film and Spike Lee's career in general and how he has been touched by the Oscars time and time again and has spoken against the Oscars and has consistently made films that are for him and from his own mind, no matter who's telling him what to do. Another similar mind to Tarantino, where he just is going to get his vision out there. And
yes.
I respect him greatly. I don't love all of his movies, but I respect him. And I'm very excited for that movie to come out because it's a new movie, right? It's a movie that we would be seeing in theaters anyway if it was out and if it was on a normal year because it's Spike Lee. So exciting to see Da 5 Bloods on Friday, again on Netflix, and on Oscar Sunday next week we'll be dissecting the film.
Yes, we will. It'll be very fun. And we're going to be using Oscar Sunday as our platform to dive into newly released films as well. Follow the current Oscar race once that starts ramping up. So that's where all our new release episodes will be going, is to this podcast.
Yeah, and it's very hard to know. Obviously, this is a Oscar-centered podcast. It's hard for anyone, especially us, to know what the state of the Oscars will be in this upcoming February. We have no idea what's going to happen. We don't know. That's kind of why we're taking the time to explore past films.
Yes.
Such as Pulp Fiction. And we're going to continue to do that every Sunday. We'll be centering around one film, but talking about so much more than just one film.
Yeah. And we'll have the occasional, top 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
It'll be just whatever we feel like doing at the time. And we're going to be focusing on current films mainly because, we don't know what's going to be up for Oscars next time. So best to cover all our bases and talk about as much as we can.
Yeah, and I want to encourage people that this is if you listen to this, obviously we didn't just talk about Pulp Fiction at the beginning. That's how it's going to be. We're going to be talking about the Oscars from that year. So, if we're talking about a movie from the 70s, we're going to be discussing movies from the 70s and talk about what's surrounded it, just like we talked about Shawshank and Forrest Gump a lot. So don't be just think that we're only talking about Pulp Fiction. This is a all-encompassing, all-are-welcome Oscar movies. That's what we're doing here. Opening the door to so much more is what we're trying to do.
Yes, indeed. Well said. Well, we'll join us 4 to 5 Bloods next Sunday, and I'm excited to embark on this new journey.
Hell yeah, me too, man.
Right on. See you next Sunday, folks.
Peace.